Hello, fellow Earthlings. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, I want to discuss the concept of neutrality. There is a parable I want to share that really embraces this topic. Some say that it is an ancient Chinese parable, and others say that it was written by Alan Watts. For those who do not know who Alan Watts is, he was a philosophical, spiritual teacher, speaker, and writer. I'm not sure what is true in regards to who wrote this parable, and there are several versions of it. But I do know Alan Watts made this story well known here in the West, whether he wrote it or not. Okay, and the story goes. Once upon a time, there lived an old Chinese farmer. He tilled his fields every day, relying on his trusty horse to help him work the land. One fateful day, the horse escaped and ran away. The villagers gathered around the farmer, expressing their sympathy, and said, "This is such bad luck." The farmer said, "Maybe." A few weeks passed, and to everyone's surprise, the horse returned. But it wasn't alone. It brought along a whole herd of horses. Now the farmer had 10 horses to assist him with his work. The villagers rejoiced, saying, "Wow, this is such good luck." The farmer said, "Maybe." Soon after, the farmer's son came to visit. While trying to tame one of the new horses, the son fell and broke his leg. The villagers gathered around once more, expressing their sympathy, and they said, "How awful. This is such bad luck." And the farmer said again, "Maybe." A month later, the farmer's son was still recovering, unable to work or walk or contribute to the farm. Then a regiment of the army marched through the town, enlisting every able-bodied young man. When they reached the farmer's house and they saw the injured son, they left him behind. The villagers marveled, exclaiming, "Amazing! This is such good luck! You are so fortunate." And the wise farmer simply said, "Maybe." This is such a beautiful story. So, reflecting on this powerful parable demonstrates the relationship with what we label as good or bad. Often we label our experiences as bad if we hate it, right? And good if we like it. But the bad cannot exist without the good, and the good cannot exist without the bad. They are paired opposites, thus identical in nature, just at different degrees, as we explored in my language video. Because we do not hold the highest perspective, whatever happens in our life, we'll never know the consequences it may bring in the future. I've even used examples of this in some of my past videos. Things that I thought were the worst things that could have happened to me ended up opening the door to different paths, experiences, people, levels of growth that might not have been available to me otherwise. I have often lacked awareness of this fact in the past, but through the work I have done in my life, I have been able to build evidence of this fact, allowing me to sometimes sit in more of a perspective of neutrality. This farmer was truly non-judgmental. He didn't judge or label the situation as good or bad, but rather sat from a place of neutrality, accepting each situation for what it was. His perspective was one of fluidity. What if the farmer fell into despair over his son breaking his leg to where it affected his own health, not knowing that the army would soon be coming through recruiting able-bodied men? What if the farmer was given a choice in the matter and a higher power asked him, "Hey, do you want your son to break his leg or not?" The farmer would have probably chosen for his son to not break his leg. Then he would have been forced into the army. This poses a question. Can we ever truly know the consequences of good fortune or the consequences of bad fortune? What about the people who win the lottery and their lives go into shambles? The lottery that they won would have been labeled as good fortune. Their family falling apart and the drug problem they picked up as a result of winning the lottery could be considered bad fortune that was birthed from good fortune, right? We truly cannot know the consequences of what we label as good or bad fortune. When we sit from a place of neutrality, as situations rise and fall in our environment, we neither favor nor condemn. We get less drawn into the drama of life that is constantly unfolding. We have trust or faith that everything is working out, even when we have trouble seeing it in the moment. I want to be clear that neutrality is not passivity. When one sits from a place of neutrality, they approach situations without biases or preconceived notions. Neutrality involves being open-minded and objective. Passivity implies lack of active engagement or assertiveness. It can lead to a sense of detachment from one's own experiences and emotions. The farmer wasn't passive, he was fluid. He saw situations rise and fall within his environment, knowing that he was unable to know the consequences that could arise out of each given situation. He was neutral, simply adjusting to what each situation in life arose in that moment with the trust that things would work out. Neutrality can be constructive when it comes to situations that naturally rise and fall within this cosmic web of creation. Passivity, on the other hand, may hinder personal growth and positive change. I know a wonderful man. I would even call him a sage, although he would never refer to himself as such. He is older and currently dying of cancer. He has 4 daughters. One daughter died in childhood of SID, sudden infant death syndrome, when he was younger. Another daughter was beaten so badly by her boyfriend that she was brain dead and had to be pulled off life support. Then he has twin daughters. One of the twins is doing very well. The other twin was a drug addict. I say was because she eventually overdosed and died on the streets. When this third daughter died on the streets, I saw this man the day after it happened. While listening to him speak, he referenced this parable about the Chinese farmer. This man had such faith in his higher power and fully understood that he does not hold the higher perspective. He was feeling the pain of losing yet another daughter, but did so without labeling it or adding a story. The situation, which was out of his control, arose in his environment. This man said, I know that I do not know what consequences or gifts from God this painful situation will bring in the future, so I'm going to be patient and see. I remember him saying that God must really trust him if he's being asked to walk through this. He didn't label the death of his daughter as bad. He named it painful. He was also not detaching from his emotions. I could see he was sitting in this pain. He was also accepting that this happened. It was out of his control, and he had so much trust in a higher perspective, knowing that other things would be birthed out of this seemingly terrible situation. I look up to that so much, and I practice this principle to the best of my ability in any given situation. I am constantly working on sitting from a place of neutrality. Sometimes I knock this out of the park. Other times I fail miserably. It is a practice, and some situations are harder to do this with than others. It's a practice. I'm sure the Chinese farmer and my friend did not get good at this overnight. They practice. For me, this practice does not work unless I have some sort of trust in a higher power or higher perspective. I went through recently a difficult situation that had to do with an insurance company not wanting to cover something that they said would be covered, possibly resulting in me having to pay a very large sum of money. It brought in a lot of fear, but I practiced this, place of neutrality with this situation. Doesn't mean that I didn't feel my feelings. I let my feelings come and go while taking each small next indicated step to resolving it. I didn't label it as bad. In fact, I often said, I trust you, God. Even when I don't understand, I trust you. When I made this statement, I was not doing so with the expectation that it would work out in what I deemed to be my favor. I got into the headspace that even if this resulted in me having to pay this very large sum of money, I would go into this situation with neutrality, understanding that I do not know the consequences that could arise out of it. I use the situation to embrace the fluidity of reality. When I am lacking trust or fluidity, I at least try to be aware of it and carry that awareness all the way through. So in other words, if my perspective is labeling something bad and that bad thing works out or opens up paths or new experiences or gives me access to wisdom or brings in new people, whatever positive outcome, I try to make note of that. It is easier to practice this concept of neutrality when you can build evidence of this from past experiences. Are you able to identify situations in your life that at the time were the worst things that could have happened to you? Something that if you had the choice, it would have never happened. Take that situation, and can you now identify positive elements that situation brought? Maybe it brought someone in your life that would have never come in contact with you without the situation. Maybe new doors open and new pathways emerged. Maybe it brought you wisdom or allowed you to reconcile certain behaviors within yourself. The possibilities are kind of endless with this. Try to identify some consequences of situations you once labeled bad or good. If you have some situations that you want to share, I would love to hear about them in the comments below. If this channel resonates, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so we can engage together. Until next time, to thine own self be true.